Here we are once again.
Good morning, everyone.
La La Land.
This is the Thursday morning mighty meetup. It's the 4th of December, 2025. We're in the last month of the year. Good morning, Alia. She was having some technical problems. Good morning, Dr. Kiltz. I'm in Central Florida. Where are you watching from? Put it in the chat. And where are you today, Lee?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just come in. This is kind of like what I've been wearing outside because it's obviously getting a bit colder now. Cleaning windows.
Where are you located?
I'm in Kent, the Garden of England, hence the name. So no excuses for no pastured for life beef over here. Get them on the pasture.
All righty. How about you, Dr. Kiltz?
I'm in Sarasota today. Tonight, I travel to New York. I'm at a fertility meeting for 2 days. And I'm working on solidifying my travels to London to meet with the team and support the team in the mission of sharing carnivore. So I'm working on it.
Nice. That will be basically almost exactly a year since I saw you in person last
Yeah,
time.
isn't that crazy? It's and I came out for like a day.
Right.
Less than a day, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to be talking to Lee in a moment. And hashtag KMT for what today, Alia? What is the giveaway?
Why don't we give this shirt away? Meet my food.
Meet my food. Okay. Just a note. A lot of people get here before we start the live stream. The giveaway tool doesn't register the hashtags until the live stream starts. So you have to put it again. If you were trying to put it before, which many people do, you have to put it after it starts to be able to participate in the giveaway. So good morning, Lee. A lot of people know who you are. Maybe some other people don't. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. And you can go ahead and tell us your carnivore story after that.
Yeah, no worries. I'll give you the highlights. So, my name's Lee. I live in Kent, hence the name. I've been carnivore now for over 3 years and 4 months, and I'm still loving it. My favorite thing about this is the cognition. I just feel light. I get up easy in the morning. I can think straight and articulate clearly. And obviously my depression went on day 21. That's the whole reason I went carnivore. And that was a consequence of a combination of two things, really. I suppose my physical outcome of the surgery and my personality, they didn't really kind of go together very well. And my outlook just diminished rapidly, and I became severely depressed. I coped for a while on my own, but it got to certain points where I thought, this is scary. I really actually need help here. That's a very interesting position that you find yourself in, actually, because it's all in your head. It's all this thought process. And it's amazing that, we're in modernity. So many of us are struggling with our mental health, our outlook. We don't treat ourselves very well. We want to lay in when we get a chance because we don't want to face the world, or we don't want to go outside and live our lives. It's crazy. A lot of us are just stuck in this sedated state, like we're stuck in limbo. And for a lot of people, this is the answer. I mean, it certainly was for me. So, would you like me to get into my story a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So basically, this all started really in 2012 when I got my diagnosis of ulcerative colitis. I wasn't in my teens. I was sort of early 20s kind of thing. But that was the first time I had an indication that I wasn't optimally healthy. When I sat on the toilet one day, I saw blood. And that's always a bit of a shock, something's not quite right. The good thing was it was kind of a bright red color. And so I'm thinking, well, it's probably lower down. It's too problematic. But went to my GP and he said much of the same thing, really. We've got to get this diagnosed. But if you think it's bowel cancer, forget it. You're too young and all this. And kind of put my mind at rest a little bit, because at the time there was these bowel cancer adverts and I could tick every single symptom. And when you don't know and you're in that situation, it can be quite scary. You know, you do think of the worst, and some of us want to stay away from Google because all the time, it just everything that you find, it's like you're gonna die. You know, so yeah. Basically, after my diagnosis at Pembury Hospital, they performed a sigmoid endoscopy, which is a bit of an unfortunate procedure where they go up the back end with a camera and pincers. They take a little biopsy, and that's how they confirmed ulcerative colitis. At the time, I had no clue what this was. You know, it was an autoimmune disease. Again, not really understanding exactly what that was. Apparently, the body just wants to attack itself, you know, because it's genetic, and that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But all the advice was the same. So eat little and often, and what you're eating should be whole plant foods. That way you're going to get lots of fiber. Emphasis on grains, which I was kind of already doing. I always based my meals around grains. That's kind of how I started. It's like, well, do I fancy rice or bread or pasta, or what's it going to be? So, okay, I'll start with brown rice. I'll put some protein in there without the fat. So it'd just be like chicken breast or cod. And then, of course, throw some tomatoes and the tomato sauce, some spices, some herbs, tender stem broccoli. Even now, even saying that, part of me thinks that's kind of healthy, right? How deep the indoctrination is. You think, well, that looks kind of balanced. It looks colorful. It looks healthy. And that's so far from the truth, because it's all about nuance. It's all about context. We're all human beings, but we have different weaknesses. And I think in the modern world, we pull these triggers without knowing it, and it exposes these weaknesses. These things that tribes don't really know what they are. If you sort of went and saw even tribes today, you know, you said, you know, do you know what sort of intestinal permeability is? They wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about, and they don't need to. They're just in their own context, in the natural environment, and they have their own intuition and their own instinct, and we've lost that. Modernity has conditioned us to lose our autonomy, and we shouldn't have to become scientists of some kind to figure out how to just survive. It seems so wrong, but that's what we have to do. It's on us. And I didn't realize this at the time. So I followed the man and the woman in the white coat because they know better than me. I genuinely believe that those guys were trained to coach me and help me get better. Even when they gave me drugs, along with the dietary advice, which I followed to a T, I thoroughly believed that I'm on the right track and I'm going to get better. And so it kind of baffled me as to why it was getting so much worse. 2 years later, I'm on my first course of medication, potent steroid medication, not sustainable, not knowing this at the time. So I was thinking like, right, well, I'm doing everything that they said that I should be doing. Things continued to get worse and worse. And after 3 years of this medication and continuing to eat what I thought was an appropriate diet, what they confirmed was an appropriate diet, I reached a point where I flared up. For the last time, I was going to the toilet 30 times a day for the last 2 days before I ended up in hospital. And when I presented there, I mean, I'd lost a lot of weight, lost a lot of muscle, dehydrated, terrible state. Without knowing it, my bowel was on its way to perforation, hence this very, very sort of worrying flare up. It kind of like hit record-breaking figures for me compared to other previous flare-ups, just overnight almost, you know, and it just got worse and worse. So they performed that same unfortunate procedure again, only to find out that things were really, really bad. You know, it was almost touch and go here and there. They trialed me on autoimmune suppressant drugs, kept me on them for longer than they should, and inevitably I ended up having my whole colon removed. So my thing is that I have this permanent bag now. It's like a lifeline for me, and I've had to learn to live with it. Going carnivore has helped me to do that, you know. But along the way, I discovered some pretty interesting things. Given that we absorb all the nutrition in the small intestine, I was very surprised to see the shapes and sizes and colors and pieces of plant material intact in the bag. Yet I never found any meat. I never found any fish or eggs or dairy. So our stomach as a human being is absolutely designed or created or evolved, whatever you believe, to break down and liberate amino acids from animal proteins, not plant proteins. You know, we absorb all this nutrition comfortably. These are essential fatty acids, amino acids. These are essential. Leucine, arginine, very, very crucial. You know, you branch chain amino acids. You have complete proteins in the right ratios in animal nutrition. We can't say the same really for any plants. That's why it's so difficult to get what you need, you know. And I was almost on that mission in some ways. Yes, I had some animal protein in there, but that's what it felt like. I was eating little and often, just copious amounts of fiber, having gas problems, gut problems, and these things exacerbate. And I understand if you have natural integrity in the gut, you haven't kind of increased intestinal permeability, good for you. I'm really happy for you. I don't think, it's not necessarily a one size fits all, but I think if you do have a problem with your gut, doesn't matter what it is, anything from IBS to IBD to diverticulosis, diverticulitis, any kind of intestinal failure, any kind of gas problems, the answer absolutely is to remove, obviously, alcohol, obviously highly processed foods, and then I would say, and I would include seed oils in that, but I always like to say that separately, seed oils and whole grains. If you remove those, that will give you a fantastic chance, just that alone. Get rid of alcohol, highly processed foods, seed oils, and whole grains. After that, there are other things that contain lectins, cauliflower, tomatoes, cucumber, nut seeds, for example. I would advocate to remove those, not all overnight, but get there slowly but surely, because if you really are serious about sealing your gut, you want to remove the compounds that open the gut, and you want to remove fiber, which is indigestible. We've got to understand that in the context of nature, like natural, organic, even tribes today, I mean, if you know about Mary Ruddock and the over 100 tribes that she's visited, these people don't have intestinal permeability. They don't have insomnia. They don't have headaches or infertility problems. These are non-existent. It's about context and nuance. These are the main things that's worth having a conversation about, because, we're not all the same. We are, if you open us up, our anatomy is the same. Our genetics are the same. We are the same animal, if you like, but because of the context of modernity, different exposure, different environment, different inputs, this leads to the more meaningful details that we need to address. And I like to think about addressing the micro things that have massive benefits. Let's not be, extreme and a lot of people kind of like put things in and put things out in such a big way. It's hard to detect where the problem is, which is why so many of us resort to a high fat lion diet, which is, you could call it an elemental diet. You could call it a species appropriate diet. It certainly is for many tribes out there. They're pretty much doing that and living that right now. It's just understanding all the little details that pertain to you as an individual, and just to make little tweaks along the way. So on my carnivore diet, it's evolved. I did beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for the first 30 days. It worked amazingly. Obviously, I cured my depression. My symptoms kind of went away. Didn't really have any health problems, but it has evolved. And so I've tried a bit of PKD. I don't consume dairy anymore. Again, we can get into this. We can get into why I don't consume dairy and why tribes that actually consume a fair amount of dairy throughout the year, why that's different. Again, context and nuance is all that matters here, to try and understand why some people have problems with things that other people don't. If I introduce milk, I can't moderate it, because I'm a sugar addict. And so for that reason, there might be a trick there to add milk. It resolves one problem, but that opens up this other problem. And now I'm at battle with my food, and I'm no longer in control of my food. And for me, being on this diet and being pretty strict, when I say strict, I just adhere to it. It's not restricting. I'm liberated. It's the opposite for me. I can live my life. That's not restricting whatsoever. I leave my house with my head up, my shoulders back, and I have a good attitude and a positive outlook. The wind picks up. It's not going to knock me over anytime soon. That's what carnivore's done for me. And so, we're all different. It's about the nuance of context and understanding people and having really good conversations, open-minded people coming together and just talking about this lifestyle, because we have to come at it from a little bit of a different angle, meet people where they are, and to not be too judgmental about the progress they're making and why they if they fail, certain words, these buzz terms and things, it's not always helpful. So hopefully we'll have a real interesting conversation.
Do you think the absence of fat may be a big part of the problem? And because we're not eating fatty meat anymore, and I'm wondering, ancient wise, maybe that might be our biggest problem.
Huge, yeah, absolutely huge. If you think about the endocrine disruption among the population in modernity, it's so evident, it's so abundantly clear that there's a lot of hormone, functioning going just crazy. Like, people can't think straight. They're not. For women as well, just think about the problem that women are having, PCOS, and fat is so important for women, maybe even more so than men. You know what I mean? And carnivore, with that slogan, carnivore, I don't want to speak for everybody, but that can sound a bit aggressive, and maybe some women, they hear that and think, nah, that carnivore, that's not for me. Carnivore absolutely is. And let me just be specific about what I mean when I say carnivore. You've recently added like potatoes to your diet, is that correct?
No,
Listen,
that was a
I eat
misunderstanding.
some potatoes,
Oh, okay.
small amounts from time to time.
Okay. I
But,
was just going to say, like, you're still way up there on the carnivore spectrum. It's not like, even if you added you peppered in some potato, and once every 2 weeks you had a little bit of sourdough bread, or you picked the berries that were local, you are still hyper carnivorous, way up there, carnivore. So again, I think it doesn't help, to sort of like put these little tight categories in, like, oh, you're not a real carnivore, or you failed carnivore, you quit carnivore. No. We call many other animals carnivores, and they were also consuming vegetation along the way here and there. We wouldn't then go, oh, you failed a carnivore diet. No, they're just they're opportunistic. They're perhaps scavengers. They pepper some things in here and there, but they're still highly carnivorous. And so, look, my thing is, if you can get away from the highly processed food, seed oils, grains, and alcohol, increase your fatty meat, base it around ruminant meat, I'm just like, oh, you keep going. That's great. I'm all in favor of that. We don't need to be so dogmatic. And fat is absolutely essential. Again, let's be specific. We're not saying that the only macronutrients you need is fat and protein. They're actually just essential fatty acids. It's not just fat in general. It's particular fatty acids, for, DHA, EPA, etc. It's not just fat, but it's crucial if you want to optimally function as a human being. We ate the fat of the land. We know this to be true. During ice ages, etc., the Paleolithic era, we were consuming abundance of fat. Large herbivores and ruminant animals was the human diet. And genetically, that makes sense. Physiologically, that makes sense. From an endocrine perspective, a nutrient density perspective, a historical perspective, it doesn't matter how you swing this. We are carnivores, and we should absolutely be eating enough fats and enough proteins. If what you choose to do with a small percentage of your diet, totally up to you. In fact, if you don't ever want to touch meat, that's up to you. I don't have a problem with that. That's your choice. It's your life. This is just advice. We're all adults, and so we're going to come away and make our own decisions. I'm not trying to force my religion, so to speak, on you. That's way too much. But for me, I just encourage that people really consider, what are we supposed to eat to function optimally? My brain absolutely loves fat. It loves ketones. My heart loves ketones. I love oxidizing fatty acids for fuel. I don't do well in glycolysis. And this is where the nuance is, by the way, with certain levels pertaining to so-called optimal ranges, which aren't, they're just normative ranges. That's another thing. I don't want people to feel great, look at a number, and out of fear and not understanding how to interpret that, that number, then it becomes so important to them that it forces this change of direction, and all of a sudden, potentially, a sugar addict is including sugar in the diet. They then fall off the wagon completely, and they can't get back for months. I do worry about some of those people, because, again, context matters. Maybe we could have done that out there in the wild. We wouldn't have had such intense cravings. And maybe if we did, it was for a reason, getting those berries with that fat, increase your Randa cycle, add some subcutaneous fat, survive this really bitter, cold winter that's potentially coming. That makes sense. But in modernity, when you've got these shops loaded with these sugar delectable treats, these very enticing looking packages, look at the ingredients, and it's just 98% of what we find in the supermarket's just not fit for consumption. And even the products, I find, are totally inappropriate, and just we've really lost our way, lost our autonomy. So
Just because we can eat it doesn't mean it's food.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, in the wild, again, we'd try things, and you can taste, if you've got to spit it out straight away, that real intense bitter taste, the sourness, something in it. Your taste buds tell you. Kids, these children that we feed vegetables, they're trying to tell you. They're screaming, "No, mummy, no, daddy, I don't want this. Please stop." And they haven't lost their intuition yet. They're like a real human being with natural signaling, and they're expressing that as best as they can. And sometimes we But we know better, right? We know better. Fruits and vegetables, that's what you need to get your nourishment. We make this sloppy mush and paste and we feed it to our child and try and force it upon that child. I've never seen a baby spit out eggs and fat and meat and, milk, right? Lots of fats and proteins, and sure, there's carbs in there too. But of course, it's to grow. It's to allow this baby to develop optimally and develop its skeletal structure. So we're supposed to wean off of that, really, and eat species appropriately, eat locally. And when we do that, it tells the same story again. Hyper carnivorous. Up to you whether you want to pepper in the local vegetation when it's in season, when it's ripe. And we, again, in the context of the modern world, we don't have to wait for that season to come along. There's strawberries all year round. There's blackberries all year round. There's cookies, cakes, and even things that we think could be reasonably healthy, baked potatoes and onions and sourdough bread. It's not even real sourdough bread. They ferment it for just long enough to call it sourdough, but it's full of sugar, and it's tricky. It's very, very tricky. But
99% of the sourdough bread out there is not really sourdough bread. Dr. Kiltz, you were going to say something.
Well, so our food is mass produced and industrialized, and is it possibly simply we get back to homemade basic foods like sourdough bread, or if you're going to eat some vegetables, you even grow them yourself, or where the organic farmer is, and you eat those. And by doing that, again, eliminating the junk food, the alcohol, the highly processed foods, which are just massively produced, and sugar, it should be used infrequently and or not at all, like alcohol, infrequently or not at all.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, of course. Yeah. We again, like I say, we've lost autonomy. And so many people have just fruits and vegetables are healthy. When they go into a supermarket, there they are. They're not questioning, wait, as a child, because some of these people in their 70s and 80s and they're not questioning, well, wait a minute, as a child, I was eating small amounts of this stuff. And it was only when it was available, when it was local. Mm-hmm. It's incredible to me that we've lost the ability to think about these things and think, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. First of all, this broccoli was hybridized. It's a flour, full of fiber. It's now available every single day when I walk in the shop, but I've heard it's healthy. So it's on my plate every single day. And that's actually just ancestrally inappropriate. Some people might say, well, appeal to nature fallacy and all this kind of stuff. But to me, no, I'm appealing to science. I'm appealing to reality. It's not realistic. It is now. It's incredible. But, they're only available because, like you say, mass production of food, industrialization. We've got these vessels shipping us over produce that we shouldn't even potentially know what it looks like. I live in Kent, England. I shouldn't know what a banana is. Yeah, I do. And I've been told multiple times by my doctor that I should be consuming bananas because they're full of potassium. But I think, to quote, is it Dr. Lustig? I think he said something like, if you put potassium in a donut, is that now a superfood? It's nuts. So, yeah.
We have a bunch of questions. I suspect we're going to have more. So maybe you can address some of those. Not mine.
We should start answering them.
Okay. So,
well, yours is first. Given your focus on gut healing, are there any specific types of meat or meat preparation methods you believe are superior for digestive health on a carnivore diet? Slow cooked, ground, raw, etc. I added the raw.
All right. So for me personally, and I can obviously only speak really specifically when I'm talking about myself and my lived experience. So for me, I've had cooked meats. When I say cooked meats, I mean not just ruminant. I've also had raw meats, and again, not just ruminant, high fat, low fat, different cooking methods, salt, no salt. This stuff breaks down 100% of the time, right? The body does exactly what it needs to do with what we know is real human food. We absorb the nutrition, and it's easy on the gut. If you want to seal your gut, if you're coming from a place of autoimmunity, it doesn't matter what autoimmunity you have. If you have some kind of symptoms of autoimmunity, most likely you have leaky gut. The first job is to seal that gut. And the best way to do that is really high fat ruminant meat, perhaps a PKD style. If anyone's not familiar, paleo ketogenic diet is the Sophia Clements protocol. And that's basically a high fat lion diet, 2 parts visually protein on your plate to 1 part fat Within that 2 parts, you've sprinkled in some organ meats as a compensatory method of fortifying, if you like, the nutrients lost that you would have otherwise got eating a larger bolus of protein. So the idea is that you stay in a more therapeutic state of ketosis. You allow the gut to heal. It's this lovely state where your body heals at a higher rate, but you're also getting all the nutrients you need. That's what I would recommend for anyone with gut problems, in fact, to seal that gut. And also dairy. Just make sure you're on a dairy-free carnivore diet, because the casein protein can also poke holes in your intestines, in simple terms. So just
do you eat raw meat? Do you eat raw meat?
I eat raw meat. Yeah, I eat raw meat to some extent every day. When I cook ground meat, I cook it what looks like 50% all the way through, and then I take it off the heat, and I'll just continue mixing it around. If I'm going to add something like fish to that afterwards, I may do that. Right. Suet, marrow, things like that, and just eat it like that, and it's fine. I've eaten raw meat from stores, raw meat from the butchers. I've not had a problem myself. Again, that's something that you need to make a decision about, but you don't have to. And if you're suffering with autoimmunity and you want to seal the gut, you adopt something like a PKD diet, a high-fat lion diet. You do not need to eat raw. I would just suggest don't cook it all the way through, like until it's dry. And I think that there's a natural progression that we all undergo, is that, the more we do this, the more our body seems to tell us, actually, back off the cooking process. So don't worry about being perfect overnight. Give it time. Your body will tell you. You'll find, that juicy steak the other day, that was nice. Oh, I might try it rare this time. And I absolutely love my steaks rare. If I'm going to have steak, I cook it up rare. And if, a lot of the time I'm having ground beef. People think perhaps I'm just eating steaks all the time and it's easy, lucky me. No, I'm eating ground beef most of the time. I have sort of combinations of brisket and suet thrown in there. Heart is quite reasonable in terms of price. Liver, of course, kidney. If you just have these sprinkled in, that reduces the price. And you also just, it's just full of nutrition. Every time I eat these meals, I always feel fantastic. And even if you can't finish the meal, pop it in the fridge and have it cold. I love that too. All that the fat when it's at room temperature or it's cold, I actually love that. So there's no specific protocols in terms of cooking methods that would help you with your gut. I think just eat fatty meat, base it around ruminant meat, stay away from plants, stay away from dairy, basically.
Dr. Kiltz?
Milk products that are fermented, like kefir and yogurt. What are your thoughts where those fit in?
They're better because obviously you've not got the sugar element as much. If you have autoimmunity, the denatured quality of these proteins actually is better for you than a raw product, most likely. If you have autoimmunity, you're going to be more sensitive to raw. We've also got to consider that the way we produce dairy is nothing like the tribes produce dairy. Again, have a look at Mary Ruddick and her work. I've only just recently realized that over here in the UK, and I don't want to I'm not going to name, places or anything like that, but the procedures and the protocols aren't ideal in terms of sterilization, in terms of where the chickens are, where in comparison to the cows and potential cross-contamination, it's not the same as raw dairy that the tribes have and the way their methods and stuff like this. But fermented dairy is what I would advocate for. If you're going to say, look, I have to have some dairy in my diet, or I want dairy, then of course go for kefir, real kefir, go for hard cheeses and things like that. But consider that like 80-90% of the protein is casein protein. And even for the most sensitive people with autoimmunity, even ghee is not recommended. And so for me, if you're serious about fixing autoimmunity, get rid of all dairy, even butter. Don't even cook with it. Okay. We've got to consider as well, it's not much older than agriculture for people to consume so many eggs, so much dairy. And I'm not here to upset people. I'm here to express myself honestly and just give my opinions and my takes on things. But, you've got to consider that maybe it's only the last 11,000 years we've been able to eat so many eggs every day. We didn't have chicken coops 14,000 years ago. We didn't have just eggs available in nature. So every member of the tribe can have 8 to 12 eggs every day. That's so unrealistic. And of course, eggs are absolutely fantastic. I'm not putting them in the same category as plants. So please don't conflate that. I'm just simply saying that because of the nuance, some people don't do well with the whites. Some people don't do well with such high calcium in the diet. This has an antagonistic relationship with magnesium, which can explain why some people can still get the eye twitches, the cramping in the night. And it's not about total amounts, it's about ratio. Okay, so it's all about ratios. We look at nature, we look at blood, we look at fish, we look at ruminant animals. calcium, magnesium is 1-to-1. The moment we start consuming eggs and dairy, calcium offsets magnesium at such a high rate that could potentially have a downstream deleterious effect. I'm not making any like cause and effect claims here. There's of course nuance, and we're all different. But I've noticed I do better without dairy. I do better without eggs. I'm not so keen on monogastric meat, though. Again, if you can get high quality pork, high quality chicken, pastured pork, pastured chickens, perhaps the pigs are eating almost nothing but acorns. Great, that's absolutely fantastic. The animals out in a wild setting, they're getting, their natural environment. They're roaming free, and they're eating what they want to eat. They're not being force fed in a little dark box these grains and things that are sprayed with glyphosate. It's a mess. So it's about sourcing the best quality that you can afford of whatever animal products that you enjoy. But if you are very sensitive, stick to ruminant meat and just trust the process. Hang in there. That is the answer. And it's up to you down the line whether you want to experiment peppering things back in, potentially eggs. Look into also fertilized eggs. That you won't have as much of a problem with the whites. Vince Gironda, I think, alluded to this in his bodybuilding protocol. He always preferred fertilized eggs. It's another thing, they're not fertilized. The dairy is pasteurized. It's also homogenized. There's a lot of problems with it. And again, it's just getting into the details. Why is it that our ancestors can do this and I can't? We're in a different context, and everything changes just simply from that one facet. So
your experience with the Western medical system and the unwielding opinions of the white coats and the authorities.
Yeah. We need to get this out of our heads about appealing to authority. It is a fallacy. I'm not saying that everyone that is a professional and has authority is wrong. That's also a fallacy. So there's a lot of people waking up, including medical doctors and surgeons, etc. Unfortunately, it is down to us to look after ourselves and to find good health, to stay healthy, to avoid chronic metabolic disease. And it's so difficult to, like I say, we shouldn't have to become scientists of some kind. I know that's a bit of an exaggeration, but just trying to express my point here. Becoming scientists so that we don't get some horrible diagnosis. That just seems insane to me. But unfortunately, we have to educate ourselves to a point. Now, I'm actually a big common sense guy. I don't think we need to understand all the science. And when I say we, I'm talking about people like myself, everyday people, people out there just looking for an alternative answer because they've tried everything else. You don't actually have to understand the science. If you went into the wild right now and you asked a tribe member, what do you do for your skin? They'd probably look at you like, I don't know what you mean. How do you have such great, lovely white teeth? You have this beautiful jaw, incredible teeth. What do you do? Who do you see? There's no dentists, there's no toothpaste and fluoride and mouthwash and all this stuff. They don't know. They just haven't lost their autonomy. They're in the right context. So there's the nuance already with people like myself and people watching. They're in the right environment. They have their natural intuition and their instincts. They're so potent, and we've lost that. So when we walk into a shop, we've been brainwashed with all this, cereal in the morning. We go into the shop, we pick up a bowl of, a packet of cereal. We're pouring it into our children's bowl before they go to school. And we don't question what that is that they just ate. A load of seeds, mashed up seeds into some fashioned in a funny little shape. Like, it's really patronizing if you really think about it. And they put a little toy on the front of the pack. Mummy, please, I just want a bowl of sugar and glyphosate for tomorrow, for tomorrow's breakfast before I go to school. Because, it's the most important meal of the day. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, we've got to get away from this appeal to authority. If I wanted to find out about sort of, I don't know, kidney problems, it's probably a good idea to talk to someone who's had kidney problems. If you want to know about gut health and you want some advice, feel free to come to me because I've lived it. I've lost my gut. Through that, I learned a heck of a lot, more than any textbook could teach me, because they don't teach you this stuff. And any kind of literature that you seek to find out information that you think is going to be helpful, I want to get healthier. It's so confusing. Not only is it conflicting, but they still echo these lies. They are lies because it's come from a very corrupt history. That was a foundation. And it's this, like Ken Berry says, the echo of these lies, confirmation bias, etc. And losing our autonomy. You get your qualifications and it's like, this is the diagnosis, this is the drug. this is the protocol, and we sort of keep keep saying the same spiel. It's like it's a script, but it really shouldn't be that complicated. I made this silly little video the other day about kind of a caveman and me, and I've gone back in the past and I'm sort of asking the caveman, you know, what's the ideal protein to fat ratio? They're sort of looking at you like, I don't know what you think. You know, real carnivores don't have, you know, that you need claws and fangs, and he's like, tools. You know, it's just basic common sense stuff is how perhaps we can reach some people.
Well, isn't it likely this term essential? Okay, essential fatty acids and amino acids. Are those possibly untrue?
No. And I'm very, very confident, because we can't synthesize them. This is why I believe, and no offense to anybody, but this is why vegans seem to shrink. DHA, EA, B12, heme iron, choline.
We're trusting science. Remember, part of the problem is we're all this omega-3, omega-6, all these numbers. What is the species appropriate diet that humanity evolved on? Animals.
Meat. Yeah.
Meat. Okay. They didn't say, well, what ratio do we need? They eat meat.
No, exactly.
And so, in fact, I guess the question is sugar required in our diet?
No. Not in the diet, no.
But when we use the word sugar, what are we talking about?
Say that again.
When we use the word sugar, what are we talking about?
Carbohydrate or simple sugar. It doesn't matter. Well, it's the same molecule potentially that we're talking about.
Are there sugars in meat?
Sure. Trace glycogen. Yeah.
Oh, no. There are many sugars in meat. Every cell of every organism contains a vast array of sugars.
But it's
not a vast array of fats and amino acids.
But it's not very high carbohydrate content at all, is it? Because it won't. We can tell when we look at the glucose reaction in the blood.
Well, right. But that's because that's our scientific belief system. It's just like you should be skinny. Like, what animal wants to be skinny? None.
Probably none, but they all kind of are, aren't they?
Well, no, they're not. They're appropriate size. But if a bear does not get fat enough, and many animals, remember, they must get fat to survive migration, hibernation, gestation.
Right. What do they do? What do they do to get fat?
Well, they eat their species-specific foods.
It changes though. The species, it's the context, right? So they want to get fat. What do? They seek sugar in the attempt to gain fat.
Well, again, but polar bears do not.
Right.
They don't seek plants. They seek more fat because it's environmental. It's our environment that matters. We moved from our natural environment and to an environment where we probably didn't have access to the food as we had, and we figured out agriculture. Now we've shipped agriculture to Africa, where they didn't have agriculture initially. Maybe.
Yeah, they're becoming more westernized, and
right now. So, again, I still think our science, even in the keto carnivore world, is not so accurate.
But it's not when you say our science, I mean, we're talking about hard science here. So biochemistry, human physiology is a hard science.
Okay. When we use the word hard science, again, all science is human beings in a laboratory and giving hypotheses and theories. So I'm just throwing out the idea that our real problem is, again, this idea of you need your proteins. Do you need more protein or more fat to eat?
It depends. Context and nuance.
Right. I'm just, again, because we're questioning authority. I even think our scientific foundation, hard science, ain't so hard. That's all.
All I would say about that is that you can take some sort of elementary chemistry, and some of the things aren't quite right. And then that change, but it's almost like it's digestible. And then we shift, and then it gets more advanced, and then that changes. And then some people go into what we call nutrition science. There's no question that's absolutely not science. That's not even close to hard science. It's kind of a joke, because you can't control for human beings. We're talking about different phenotypes, right? Epigenetics. There's so much nuance there that you can't sort of copy and paste this thing and apply it to another population. That's absolutely anti-scientific and pseudoscience. So that's a really bad way to go. Epigenetical epidemiological studies and things like that. Just ridiculous.
Hans Krebs and Otto Warburg were scientists in laboratories getting paid.
Sure.
And they're creating theoretical science that we call hard. That's all. We know that it's simple. If you just simply eat animal products, you'll be healthy.
Yes, depending on which animal products, frequency and volume again.
Well,
so,
right. But if you, meaning that, let's just eliminate plants altogether. If you can survive and thrive on only beef, or pork, would you agree?
Beef, yes. Pork depends on the quality, depends on your phenotype, epigenetics, etc. For some people, if it's a bad quality pork, like they react even worse to that than some plants. So the pork thing, again, if it was natural, in a hog or a pig in its natural environment, eating its natural diet, I basically agree with you.
Right. And I'm just taking natural here because, again, in our industrial production and processing, that's where we've introduced so much. And I even think, again, I'm a scientist. I'm a doc. I've been all through the biology.
Are you a hard scientist?
What's that?
Are you a hard scientist?
Well, yeah, I'm hard in the head sometimes. But I question even what we call hard science.
Question everything.
Everything. And the beauty is, wait a minute, Lee Copus, are you an MD, PhD? No, but you're teaching us through your experience and your hard learned road of the modern system that failed you.
For sure, yeah.
And online through social media, you're healing more people than most of us doctors have.
So it would seem, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think, it's important to speak about our lived experience because that's important. Many people will call it just an anecdote, but it's not just an anecdote. Like, you can't take something away from someone. If someone tells me I added pineapple this much once a day and this happened, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to just sort of go, no, impossible. It's a plant. I'm part of this new cult now, and I couldn't even possibly open my mind to consider that's a possibility. I question everything. I'm open and I listen to people, and I don't call those people liars. I think, if you start meditating and you do some breath work one day and you feel a benefit, more power to you. How can I not get behind that? I might even be inspired to give it a go myself, But I think, it's important to talk about your lived experience and anecdotes. It can't just be a coincidence. So many people have come to me, emailed me, their fathers, their mothers, on behalf of their children that had what I had. They found my videos, my channel, and they've been inspired to change. They've sort of followed my instruction and my guidance. They're out of trouble. They're in remission. They're off of medications. I'm not talking about 3 or 4 people here. I don't know what the figure is, but I'm talking about probably hundreds. So
I love that.
And they've been failed by their professionals, not intentionally. That's not what I'm saying here. It's confirmation bias, and unfortunately, lack of education. They don't know about nutrition, and they actually think nutrition science is a science. It's not. If we think about what rigor it takes for something to be classed as an actual robust scientific experiment, because that does exist, that does not apply to human beings because you cannot control for human beings. That instantly throws it off. So
there is no hard science, because no matter who we are, we're biased. Human beings are biased, period. And I'm just throwing out that there's so much that we throw out in our medical world and our hard science because of it's still back to authority.
Sure and no. I think you could even put science as an authority. You could just put that in a box itself. Like, I worship science, right? You could worship anything and put it on a pedestal. Again, yes, you have to question everything. Yes, you have to be open. But when we try over and over again to disprove the hypothesis, and we can't seem to do so, and time again, we get the same results, the same conclusion, that's very, very difficult to ignore. I mean, we do know about nutrients in foods and how we're getting nutrients more bioavailable for meat as opposed to plants. There's no question. You can have a look at the protein they're made of animal cells, right? Proteins, bioavailable proteins that we we break these down into amino acids, peptides, absorb them, and then we rebuild these and constitute them around the body. Muscle protein synthesis. We know this. There's absolutely things we can observe, and measure, not estimates like the normative ranges and blood tests and all this kind of stuff. This is all guesswork. This is all estimates, but there are absolutely things that we can look at. We can perform a very robust, rigorous scientific experiment and get time and time again, just confirmation over and over again. Yes, yes, yes. Hard science. That's what we call hard science. We're always trying to disprove these things. But when I'm talking about nutrition science, it's a joke, which is why we have so much conflicting information. That tells you that's not hard science. Hard science doesn't have this conflicting results all the time. And then we go, oh, well, let's just go with A. We'll go with A. That's the answer. That's the hard science. No, we come out with the same conclusion. The nutrition studies are where it fails. There's no consistency because there's no rigor. There's no scientific discipline. It's a joke, There's a big difference between those two things. But saying that, again, I'm a common sense guy like the ancestral lens. When I'm working with somebody, I don't need to try and get into the science. They don't need to understand any of this stuff on a deeper level. They just want results. They just want to feel better. And it seems that when they come away from plants, they come away from dairy a lot of the time, they're consuming to satiety every day, fatty ruminant meat, potentially some fish, potentially some eggs, etc. They get better. They feel better. Their problems go away. And that's the mission.
A simplicity to the story that ultimately heals most of us. That probably is the most important thing you and so many of us are sharing online, and that powerful story.
Yes, it's the people's stories, people's turnarounds, the outcomes. Like, to me, I don't like to see people suffering. And actually what's even worse is when they're struggling, they're desperate for an answer, but they just can't find it because it's so hard. It's so confusing to try and figure out through all this conflicting advice. Where do I even start? Why should I believe you? And believe me, right? I'm a window cleaner. Some people do not want to take their nutritional advice from me because I'm a window cleaner, but I've lived this life. I've lived alongside other people that are living this life. I'm in contact with some incredible people all over the globe that treat their patients this way, using food and lifestyle as a cause and root cause protocol. We're actually meaningfully addressing these people's problems from a root cause level and not surface level by addressing symptomology with some drugs. It's trying to get people away from this thing like, listen to authority, drugs are going to help, and balance and variation, etc. All this kind of stuff, colors all the time, relentless eating, over consuming. I'm just supposed to snack on almonds and drink water in between meals because my body just wants constant water and food and fiber, and I'm supposed to be digesting. No, absolutely not. Super simple, once or twice a day, I would say for most people, maybe 2 or 3 for women. Get the fat in, get the protein in, make sure it's from animal nutrition, it's bioavailable. And I'm not saying I don't care about the science, I really do. But for when we're talking about helping people who just want results, that's all they care about, is how I want to feel good. I don't want this pain and this suffering anymore. But it's very difficult because there's no such thing as a perfect sentence that you can just deliver to someone and all of a sudden they're like, right, convinced, I understand exactly where you're coming from. I've got all the confidence in the world. I know what I'm doing now. I'm going carnivore tomorrow and I have all the answers. That's not even realistic. And so this is hence why we're coaching.
What was Jesus Christ's profession?
Carpenter, like Harrison Ford.
So again, we're human beings on our life journey of knowledge and sharing and helping. And so I would take much advice from a window cleaner who will go up on heights that I would never do. But again, it's an honor to have you on today and sharing your passion for healing our brothers and sisters.
You bet. Absolutely. This is the mission we're all on, I think. This is why we're having this conversation right now. It's not because we're not trying to help people. I mean, look, let's face it, right? I'm not saying I have all the answers, but for a long time now, I just function well. My brain works. Life is good. I always say life is on easy mode. I could quite comfortably just quit talking to everybody, come off of this live right now and go and continue to live that life. I feel like I've figured it out, at least for me, right? But that's not enough. I don't want to do that. I feel obligated to help people that are in a position that I was in, a similar position. Maybe they're heading that way and I can reach them and help them. And, that's what's happening. And that's what our mission is. We are pro-human. I'm pro-animal. I'm pro-planet. And it turns out that what I'm doing, I genuinely believe is the best way forward for every facet, every angle you can think of. I'm not going around killing animals for sport, but I'm also not consuming animals that eat from monocrops that are sprayed and ridden with glyphosate and then the downstream deleterious effects of that. I feel like I have a good understanding and a pretty balanced approach. And I just want to reach people because I think that this is the way.
What's your thoughts on coffee?
Don't like it. When did we drink coffee? How would we have gathered beans in parts of the globe where those coffee beans don't grow? Grind them up. It's a diuretic, right? It can increase blood pressure. It's going to strip your minerals. It doesn't.
It's also a laxative.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if people are worried about their supplements and their minerals, right? They take Element, for example, and then they drink coffee. Just get rid of the coffee, right? Don't. And this is another thing. Again, this isn't to say that this is everybody. And it can work for some people. Some people can do exceptionally well on a carnivore diet with dairy and coffee. More power to you. I'm not going to say, oh, you're not real carnivore, blah, 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 blah. You continue to do whatever you want to do. But I've found in my experience, people that have headaches and migraines, get rid of the coffee, things get better, right? If you can't sleep, get rid of the coffee, things get better. If you're having eye twitches and leg cramps, racy heartbeat, get rid of the coffee, things get better. If you're sore in the morning after you train, get rid of the coffee, things get better. This isn't a coincidence, right? So it's not ancestrally appropriate, and there's no such thing as an essential coffee.
I would just
do what you want to do. I'm not here to try and tell anybody to do anything. Just do what works for you. But I personally stay away.
Driving a car, is that healthy?
It's sometimes necessary regardless, but this is something we can control. I don't think we can control that we have to have a mobile phone connected to mobile data, an email, and an address and all that. We can't control certain things, but we can control the things we consume, like coffee. And so if it is something that's potentially causing you a problem, set yourself a challenge and get your answer. If you don't have a problem with it, you go, well, look, that didn't go away. I think I want to just enjoy my coffee. You go ahead. Who am I to tell you not to drink coffee? I'm not ever going to try and convince anybody not to do something. I'm just here giving people advice. We can, you're going to go away and do what you want with that. And that's your thing, your life, your business.
Dr. Kiltz, we have a lot of questions.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
I just want to say
Let's
we've
do
been
it.
drinking coffee for 575 years per AI since sometime in Egypt.
Let's do a rapid fire round of
Yeah, okay.
questions.
Okay, what are your thoughts on supplements I just started taking? L-citrulline maltate 2-to-1 powder nitric oxide boost citrulline maltate supplements, and then there was another one, CoQ10.
We can get all this. We can get all these benefits from eating food and living an appropriate lifestyle. If you get outside in the sun, you don't need L-citrulline. It's not. What I would say about supplements is they're a great diagnostic tool. If you take a supplement and feel better, you've got then questioned, why is it? Why am I feeling better when I introduce a higher amount of that particular nutrient, for example? And then you go, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to get some fish in my life. So if you take iodine and you feel better, well, maybe you need to have a look at the diet. Why am I not getting enough iodine? That would be my thing. But see, CoQ10, eat some beef heart. Just eat sort of a nose to tail style diet. We can get everything. If you have histamine problems, eat some kidney. There is an answer to all this. And this, when we talk about a balanced diet, I'm a big believer in a balanced diet. And I think that we acquire that effortlessly when we make our way through a ruminant animal. That is the balanced diet for human beings. There's everything in there. There's every answer in there to every problem. There really is. And you just have to trust the process. And there will always be nuance because of the context we're in. And that's why it matters so much. But I'm not against supplements, like I'm not against medication. There's a time and a place, but I think use them, get your answer, and address it meaningfully at a root cause level in an appropriate way, appropriate problem solving. That can be the introduction of supplementation. Get your answer and figure out what I'm lacking. I need to eat more kidney. I need to eat more heart. Pepper in some liver. You don't need much liver.
Do you take any supplements?
Nope. No supplements for me. I've experienced. So I did have some electrolytes from Keto Pro. Feel like I don't need them at all anymore. I took some taurine to see if there was any benefits of that. You know, didn't necessarily feel anything big, but I've taken that out. Trying to think what else I've tried or taken. Nothing really. I eat what I believe is a more sort of nose to tail style lion diet, which is modified because I had some wild fatty fish. And again, people talk about like more zinc, more taurine, more iodine, more magnesium. We find all of that in fish. It's in abundance. So that's what I believe in. Again, DHA in the brain. We ate a lot of fish. We talk about ruminant animals. Yes, it was the biggest staple. Yes, it's most consistent with our ancestry. Nice. But I love a bit of salmon, sardines, mackerel. I throw that in with my ground beef and my ground lamb, and I eat sort of different cuts, and including tongue. I don't eat the nose, but I eat the tail. I eat the tongue. I eat the heart. I eat the skirt and the diaphragm. You know, if I could, I would drink blood. I eat sort of connective tissues and parts of the knuckles and parts of the cartilage. I eat the marrow. You know, people aren't doing this. People just think I'm eating ground beef, put some bacon in there and eggs. That's carnivore, and they go, "Oh, it didn't work for me." You have to ask yourself why. How fast, you know, did you jump into it very rapidly and you had some symptoms, and then you attributed that to carnivore and not carbohydrate withdrawal? It's not keto flu that you're getting, by the way. That's non-existent. It's carbohydrate withdrawal. Keto flu doesn't exist. It's a construct. Carbohydrate withdrawal and the drop in insulin throws electrolytes out. That is the nuance there. That is understanding that. So go slow, go easy. And then if you are one of these that just has to rip the Band-Aid off, you know, hang in there, trust the process, eat enough fat, eat enough protein. Don't overthink. Eat any animal product that you enjoy in the beginning. Don't try and do lion overnight, you know. And if you are having problems and you still want to get to the bottom of it, come see someone like myself, Dr. Kiltz. There's many people that I would recommend, you know. If it's bloods, go and see Coach Stephen. You know, there's so many people out there that, that can help.
What blood tests do you do on a regular basis?
None ever. Not interested. I feel great.
Alia, next question.
Yeah. How does eating fat affect your bag? That's
so if I ate lots of rendered hot fat, that would speed things through a little bit. So that's what, and also I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I don't think my body can create the bile that it wants to, that it needs to emulsify so much fat all in one go. So my advice is just to cut back on the cooking, or this is another thing I would recommend. If when eating ground beef, that liquid fat is a bit overwhelming and you have problems, maybe diarrhea, etc., cook it in advance. Let it cool down and eat it at room temperature. That makes all the difference, by the way. That doesn't happen. It's like pemmican. I thought, oh, I can't cook this rendered fat and even let it come back and have it if it's cooked. No, if it's in the liquid form, it goes in the body too quick. My body can't kind of adjust and keep up. So fat affects the bag based on how much I'm eating and what state it's in. If it's raw, I feel the best. I love raw fat. What I'll do is cook my steak rare, but when I say rare, I'm talking about the fat. That's my criteria for rare. The fat has to be raw in the middle. That's how I do things. If you're not there yet, don't worry about it. And if you do okay on rendered hot liquid fat, carry on, you know. But if you are having issues, you feel a bit overwhelmed. Some people think like, oh, I got a bit nauseous after eating the ground beef and that. Let it cool down and eat it cold, or don't cook it so much. But do what you're comfortable doing. You know, it's incremental changes.
What do you do to increase the fat? Is a question from Brisket Boomers.
So I favor marrow because I don't like dairy anymore. I mean, I used to love butter, but it just didn't agree with me so well. I would start to get a little bit more twitches and cravings. And so, again, if you're trying to give up sugar addiction, maybe you just need to get rid of all the dairy, even the cream in your coffee, etc. Yeah, I like marrow because I think that's super ancestrally appropriate. Add suet. I mean, for people that can do eggs and that, feel free to add some egg yolks. I prefer duck eggs for that reason, you know, a little bit more nutrient dense. But that's what I do, really. I get my butcher to sort me out. So they give me fat trimmings. I get free lamb fat because I don't like to put that in sausages because of the flavor and that. So just build a relationship with your butcher. It doesn't take long. They figure out what you like and tell them what you like. And when they come in, they'll often go, oh, I've got a lovely bit of this and that for you, you know, because they get to know you a bit. So that's what I do.
All right, let's do this giveaway. Here we go. And the winner is
Dr. Kiltz.
Squeaky.
Almost.
Yeah, Dr. Kiltz keeps winning. Squeaky E4070, please email me with your name and address, Alia at drkiltz.com, and we will get you a t-shirt. Meet my food t-shirt. How fun. Okay, congratulations.
If someone wants to get in touch with
We have more
you,
questions, but we don't have more time.
if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do we find you? Where?
So obviously I'm on YouTube under Kent Carnivore. Feel free to email me, leecopus3@gmail.com. I've just set up my own community, which I'm working on, want to build. It's all for the people. You know, I've just come away from this carnivore retreat in Spain, and it just drummed home to me how important the social aspect is. We shouldn't be eating alone. We shouldn't be on our own on this journey. We do need to support each other. And human connections are so vital for optimal health. Absolutely. So feel free to join my community. If I'll give you the link, you can drop that below perhaps afterwards. But, you know, just search for Kent Carnivore and you'll find me. I'm willing to talk and converse. And
How young are you, Lee?
I'm 38 years young.
Cool. We're really blessed to have you.
I thought you were 27.
No, I was,
my oldest son is 38.
Right, that's my colon. 28 is basically a decade ago. So
the number of people suffering from colon cancer, IBS, Crohn's is on the rise, and this is important to share these ideas that basically a significant plant low-fat diet is deadly for humans.
For sure, agreed.
Simple.
Agreed.
Yeah, very cool.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks for having
everybody.
me.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thank you for being here. See you guys later.